Hello learners, we are here to discuss matters as pertaining environment. First of all, I'm going to define what environment is. Remember, environment is the surrounding. Environment is the surrounding of any living organism, any living animal. For example, you can look around me. I'm surrounded by my colleagues here. That is Teacher Meshach, this is Teacher Ephraim. I, Teacher Duncan. That is part of the environment. If you look, there are plants around us, and all the components of environment depend on each other to survive. We have to survive in our environment. And now I can say, without fear of contradiction, that you as students, we as teachers, even parents, we have taken more than enough for the honor to notice. It is now time to give back to our parents, to give back to the society by doing this. No more buying this. In 2-3 months' time, you should come up with a way of how you can conserve this in your own small way. Whether you are in class 1, class 2, class 3, 8, it doesn't matter. But what matters is, what are you doing? What are you doing to prove what you have learned in school? So here we are going to learn very simple concepts on how to transplant. Transplanting is our main topic of today. We are going to transplant the seedlings. We are going to transplant seedlings. Remember, transplanting comes after the nursery preparations. Whatever Teacher Meshach is holding, look at Teacher Meshach. That is a tomato. That's a tomato seedling. Before it became a seedling, it was once a seed. So you can just remove some of the seeds so that they can see. And here we have the cabbages. As you can see, the seeds of a cabbage. Before it became this, it was once a seed. Yes, we are going to see the seeds. Yes, as you can see, the tomato seeds, very viable. Viable to mean small. You cannot just throw this into a field where the plants are being raised. They will get lost. Look at the cabbages. Very viable, meaning minute, small. You can't just throw this into the field. You have to raise it in a nursery. And our previous lesson, we learned about the management practices in a nursery. But now we are no longer there in the nursery. We want to transplant. We want to transplant the seedlings now. Look at this. In the nursery, that one will stay for 3 to 4 weeks. Then they become this. Then after that, it is transplanting. And that is what we are going to learn today. So I request my colleagues to have the seedlings. The requirements for you to transplant. What do you need? Requirements for transplanting. Before you transplant, you must make sure your land is ready. You don't need to own a large parcel of land, bearing the fact that in the estates where we live, we have balcony, we have scarce land. There is scarcity of land. So what we can do, we require a tire like this. And I believe each and every one of you must have seen an old tire, or we have them at our home. Use your tire, fill it with the soil the way it is filled, as you can see. It is filled with the soil. Then from there, you insert the seedlings.
In addition to that, I think I can add on what my friend has said. You can as well have the tires that we said, but I don't want to believe maybe each and everyone. Maybe you have a cars at home, and some might have not maybe come across the tires. So alternatively, you can also use sacks, a 50 kg sack or a 90 kg sack. You can also fill halfway or 3/4 way with soil. You can also use broken buckets. So in the broken bucket, you can also fill the soil the way it is. And then after filling with soil, you need to get some water. Water is very important. Water is among the requirements for a seed or any plant to grow, as we know. So you'll also water those containers, whether you have used the sack you have used the bucket or the tires you did, you'll water them so that the soil can be wet. It should be having moisture. Other material you'll also need seedlings, and I think my colleagues have the seedlings with them. Yes, my colleagues have the seedlings. That's teacher Meshach is holding the seedling. That is the kale's seedlings. And another one, teacher Dan is also having some there, the kale seedlings. So another material you also need the fertilizers. The fertilizer and the best fertilizers we recommend it to the DAP, the ammonium phosphate fertilizer. This is a compound fertilizer. That means it has the major 3 nutrients. We have the ammonium, we have
ammonium
fertilizers. We have the ammonium, we have the phosphate in it. So this is a compound fertilizer, and these nutrients are very, very important. This is the food for the plants to grow well. If you want the plant to grow well, just like us, we consume the foods, we get nutrients, food nutrients from the food we eat. So plants also need the nutrients. So you need the seedlings, you need the fertilizers, and then where you are going to transplant your seedlings. So those are the DAP fertilizer. Those are the granules of the fertilizer. Now, we want to swing in now to the action, the real planting itself. And I think we are going to start by, actually we have to make some holes in our areas we want to plant our seedlings. You'll have to use, you can improvise, make use of the environment. You can use a stick. You can use a stick and then you make a hole, like the way Teacher Meshach is doing. Teacher Dan, I'll also prefer you have something you'll have to scoop. And at least in each and every time, you can even use 2 holes. You can use, this is a big space. You can make 2 holes. You can make 2 holes.
Let's make them 2 done.
Okay, so you make them 2 holes in each and every tire. For the case of children, you can even, in your sack, you can also as well use, you can do the way we are doing it. We have ensured that our soil is so soft. We have watered it, therefore there is enough moisture in our soil so that our seedlings can grow well. So the teachers are making some holes in those particular areas where you are going to plant our seedlings. And our seedlings should be viable. That means don't use the seedlings that have already dried up. So once you buy the seedlings, please plant at the right time so that it should not dry up. Now I teachers, I want you to believe maybe you have already prepared the land where you are going to transplant our seedlings. Now the next step, after you have made the holes in each and every container, the way they have done, there are some holes that have been dug. There are some particular radius, not very, very big ones, because the seedlings are just small ones. You make particular holes to a certain depth, as they have done it. And then after they have done that, Mr. Dan, I think you can come and show this.
Okay. Can I explain this?
No problem.
What we are going to do with this is fertilizer. The first thing, before you put the seedlings, you have to measure. Measure. Just measure. This is a bottle top. Just fill the bottle top only for 1 seedling. This is diammonium phosphate, meaning it has 3 major nutrients the way Teacher Ephraim explained. That is phosphorus is there, nitrogen is there, and even potassium. Is that okay, teachers? Yes. So this one is only used in the soil during planting only, because it will help the roots to develop. So we are going to put just 1 bottle top on each our 3 holes. We are going to put the fertilizer first, then followed by the seedlings. And you have to make sure you only bury the root only. The root only. As you can see, 1 bottle top, then the seedlings will follow. Fertilizer, then we have the seedlings. Very good. We are planting kales. You can have as many seedlings in 1 tire as you can see. Very, very well. That is the second one. You can even have as many as 50, depending on the size of your tire. And make sure you space the seedlings. Space the seedlings to avoid competition of nutrients, of water, and even sunlight. So they have to be evenly spaced within the tire. As you can see, that is the spacing which is there. Make sure there is a space between each and every seedling. Spacing, even spacing. Very good. So this is something you can do at home. It doesn't require any rocket scientist to explain to this, or to have the onions, as you can see, red in color. That is good. This is something you can do at home. Tell mommy, tell daddy, no more buying sukuma wiki. You will plant it. No more buying kales. You can do that. We have taken enough. We have robbed even from our parents. We can plant it and tell mommy, don't buy it anymore. So these ones will stay here for even 2 months to 3 months. They will be ready. They will be ready. Just 2 months only. And you will have your cabbages, you will have your onions, you will have your sukuma wiki. And watering is very important. We are coming back to management practices in our seedbed. So after planting, there are some management practices that you have to make sure you do. Very well. You can see very many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can count. Countless. Countless. We also have more spaces here which can be utilized. There are a lot of spaces. There's another one here. So you can have as many seedlings in one tire as possible. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can have 5. And now that we have our seed, you can call this a seed bed. It is a seed bed. A seed bed, but we have used the old tires. You can see these tires can as well be arranged in a manner that they will not occupy a lot of space. Now we are going to management practices in a seed bed. The first management practice that we are going to do is watering. As you can see, if you don't have this improvised watering can, you can use containers. As you can see, Teacher Meshach is watering using the container. But now we are going to time of watering. When are you supposed to water your seed bed? Number 1, you have to make sure that you water twice every day. Twice a day. That is in the morning when the sun is not overhead. In the morning when the temperatures are very low, you water. And in the evening after sunset. That is 2, watering. And you have to water. Water completely, but avoid flooding. Avoid flooding your seedbed because this is just kales. So 2 watering in the morning and very late in the evening. Number 2, you also need a fertilizer. Remember, when the seedlings are above the knee, they have grown. This seed need a top dresser. What do you mean by top dressing? We need a fertilizer. We can use ammonia or a nitrogenous compound. Nitrogenous compound fertilizer that will make sure that the foliage, the leaves of the kales are dark, good quality. They are dark green in color. They are large for the foliage growth. And that one, what we require is a top dressing fertilizer, that is any ammonium fertilizer. Any nitrogenous compound fertilizer will be used in that case. Another thing that you need is there's something called pruning. You have to remove the deceased part, but that one is after some time. In 3 weeks time or 2 weeks time, you will have some deceased parts in your vegetable. You have to remove the deceased part by cutting. You just use your finger because this one is very small. You don't need a secateurs to prune the deceased part. You only need your finger. You remove the deceased part so that it can be separated from the fresh ones. So that is one of the practices that is required in your field or seed bed. Yes. Another thing that you need is weeding. And you know weeding. And now that we only have our tire, you don't need to carry a whole jembe to dig the kales. You just uproot. Remove the weeds. Remove them. Remove the weeds using your hands. That is called uprooting. Another thing also, to conserve the moisture that is inside, there is something known as mulching. So mulching, as you can see, you don't need to buy this from a shop. You can use dry leaves to cover. You cover the seedlings to prevent excessive heating of the seedlings. To conserve the moisture. Remember, this one is done during dry season. When there is no water, water your seedlings and make sure you mulch your seedlings to prevent excessive. We have a lot of mulch the other side. You can see
Mulch is dry leaves.
dry leaves. You can use even wet leaves because they will at time dry. Our main purpose here is to cover, is to conserve the moisture. The moisture. Thank you very much. So mulching, we have mulch. Thank you. So just to remind you about the practices that we require, we started with watering, and it is twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. Number 2 is weeding by uprooting. As you can see, our farm is very small. You can just uproot the weeds. Weeds are the unwanted plants in our farm. Uproot the weeds. Number 2, you have to mulch. Make sure the surface is covered properly to conserve the moisture that is in. Number 2, mulching will also suppress the weeds. Mulching will suppress the weeds. So this is something you can do. You don't need somebody to explain to you this. You just do it, and in 3 months' time, you will have your kales, you will have your cabbage, you will have your onions, you will have your tomatoes. And that is something you can do. As you can see, the whole field is now mulched. The moisture is conserved. The weeds are suppressed. And when mulching, you have to go for an organic compound. That is something that can decompose. And this mulch, after it has decomposed, remember, it will add nutrients to that soil. The nutrients will be added, so it is very much important to use something that can decompose. Please don't use polythene. Don't use polythene as a mulch because it will be dangerous to the seedlings. So you have to make sure the field is well maintained, well arranged, and you have to be there. You have to be there for your seedlings to grow. It requires your presence, and that is something you can manage. It is very, very important. Get yourself involved in an activity. Not just changing seeds, changing hairstyles, and doing all sorts of things. You can do this one, and it can be of great benefit even to your parents, even to yourself, and as you grow in large scale, you can sell, earn a living. Thank you very much, learners, for this. Practice, and you will be perfect. Thank you.